Hey guys, glad you're tuning in. Today we're talking about a tough topic, a very controversial one, especially one that, as former right-wing extremists, we probably have something to say about. Neither of us were ever right-wing terrorists. Axel, first of all, thank you so much for taking the time to talk about this very controversial and specific topic. He greets first. I would just continue speaking right away. The most important thing we have to mention now is that there are victims when it comes to this topic. People, we are aware of that. In memory of those killed and the survivors of the National Socialist Underground terror cell, which raged in Germany from the early 2000s into the 2010s. It is important to always stand with the victims and their families. And that happened this August. We postponed it for a while. I have to honestly admit it was also because I was on vacation and Axel was traveling for work too. We always had it on our agenda to comment on it as well. Beate Zschäpe has entered an exit program. Axel.
Yes, well, I've already been approached about this by various parties. One has to say that, of course, this decision by exit to accept Beate Zschäpe into the exit program. One moment.
Can you give a brief input? Please explain exit. If someone joins and asks about National Socialist Underground, what is it? Maybe they'll ask about National Socialist Underground or exit again.
National Socialist Underground was the so-called National Socialist Underground. That was 3 perpetrators. Only Beate Zschäpe survived. The other 2 members of this terrorist group died. They took their own lives. Uwe Mundlos and Uwe Bernhardt. And yes, they actually took right-wing extremism to a whole new level with a series of murders unlike anything seen before and with bank robberies. And of course, in the course of this, they also reignited the discussion about whether the state could have reacted earlier and to what extent there were failures on the part of the investigative authorities. And unfortunately, a lot of that is still shrouded in darkness. A lot of what has come to light was also shocking for me. So there was a lot of government failure, and especially the bereaved suffered from false accusations. Because before investigations even started in that direction, or anyone considered that it could have been right-wing extremists who committed those murders, the families were first suspected of possibly having contacts with criminal organizations, that it was a case of extortion and so on and so forth. For those affected who were completely innocent, that was of course absolutely humiliating and absolutely disastrous. The state must still take responsibility and apologize for that today, no question. But the state, the National Socialist Underground, has now also been thoroughly addressed and examined, including in various parliamentary investigative committees. You were also once summoned by the state parliament.
Summoned to the investigative committee in Mecklenburg-Vorpommern.
The results are unsatisfactory for many, partly because Beate Zschäpe stayed silent during the trial. Basically, you could say she contributed little to nothing to actually clarifying things and really sharing what she knew. So she sat there for the most part and stayed silent, and her role, that's how it seemed to me. She also tried to sugarcoat things a bit, saying things like, what the guys are saying, I didn't even know about that. Basically, I was just the housewife who was there to keep the place clean, to put it bluntly, but that's just the National Socialist Underground. In short, Exit is a private exit organization. It's not run by the government. It was founded back then by Bernd Wagner, an expert on the right-wing extremist scene, or Dr. Bernd Wagner, an expert on the right-wing extremist scene. He did a lot of prevention work. And as a criminologist in the German Democratic Republic, he was already dealing with right-wing extremism. He experienced the baseball bat years and the rise of right-wing extremism in the German Democratic Republic firsthand, in his role as a criminal investigator. And then he founded this organization because he was also convinced that it is important to re-socialize the offenders, to show them there is a way beyond hate, violence, and extremism. And he has already supported a lot of people, including one of the most well-known defectors of the 90s and 2000s, Ingo Hasselbach. Also many others who have been supported by Exit. Yes, of course, it does have a bit of a bad taste that a state-run exit program, which Beate Zschäpe turned to, did not accept her. Exit has now done it, and how we assess that, what we are now hearing about it, I would just leave it at that for now. It's just
A few seconds. You need to mention that in the input. We have, before recording these short videos that we've started making now and giving our input, Axel and I, of course, discuss our points of view. You can believe that we very often have different opinions about this, and then we try to see where we stand, where the problems are, and we also point them out to each other. And this is a very difficult issue here. There are a lot of topics here, and there are very heated discussions about them. That's simply because of the series of murders that took place here.
And the trauma, which is absolutely human, understandable, and comprehensible, especially because of the state's failure and the trial in which it provided no answers.
Exactly, or the agent's handler. Maybe someone from the Office for the Protection of the Constitution who I think was at the kiosk too. A lot of files that were shredded, files that disappeared. Anyone wanting to fully study the National Socialist Underground can't devote their entire life to it. A very complex topic. I just need to give some quick input again. I was in prison with someone who had been severely punished for right-wing extremist crimes and later even carried out a hostage taking. But that was about money, overlap, crime and extremism. He also began a pen pal relationship with Beate Zschäpe. That shouldn't be overlooked here. So Beate Zschäpe wasn't caught. And she was then this harmless woman. A housewife at home while the two Ubers were out and killing. That's completely absurd to me. They lived underground. There were support systems. It's absurd. She stayed connected to the right-wing extremist scene for a very long time. Did they have this correspondence? That probably bothers some people too. And now suddenly the verdict is there. I think it's been in place for 7 years now.
Ben Schmiemann, for instance, whom we've mentioned before. Yes, so also a violent neo-Nazi leader who was recently at a concert of the band Weimar. He celebrated himself there, saying how all the people supposedly recognized him and wanted to take pictures with him, wanted to shake his hand. So Beate Zschäpe had, as you said, contacts in the right-wing extremist scene for a long time, and at first didn't make any noticeable break from it. Now, of course, we don't know.
I think that's missing for me. But also, well, for me too. I'm not involved because for me, hold on, Axel, wait. I want to explain this to you briefly. Of course, I missed that. Publicly communicated, that's the question. But do you want that? We don't know what happens there in prison. We don't know who she talked to. We don't know what mechanisms were set in motion. Nobody in my prison knew that except my psychologist, the chaplain, and prison management, who knew what was happening in the background. That I was pushing for my exit, that I meant it seriously, that I wanted to go through with it. That's why I don't want to compare that. I realize this is minor compared to the National Socialist Underground. Still, that's something I kind of missed. I was always waiting for that. I really was. Honestly, I actually expected it. I'll admit that. I always thought it would happen eventually, Axel. Beate Zschäpe files a statement in writing. It was clear to me that she wouldn't take the witness stand, that she wouldn't face questions from the court, the prosecution, or her defense.
Especially from the victims' lawyers.
Also, right. So that probably would have extended it by another 2 years. The trial would have interested everyone. I expected that she would submit a written statement and that it would be a very long written statement. As a defendant, you have the right to make a statement, including in written form, where you don't have to respond, so you don't. So that can be taken into consideration, and it would be taken into consideration. You can lie in it, you can tell the truth in it. It can be a mix of everything. Many defendants use this way to make a statement in writing. That's what it's called.
Then you have it under control. You can set the narrative, and that's it. But it's also possible, I have to say, for those who aren't familiar with the legal system. As a defendant, you can also testify, but you're not required to answer any question you don't want to answer. So basically, you can also have your lawyers question you. And if the prosecution, the judge, or the victim's lawyers want to ask questions, you can say, for me, it's over now. So that's also possible.
Not incriminate myself.
But it's not like in the United States where you take the stand once and then have to testify. It's regulated differently in Germany. But what I just wanted to mention briefly is we all don't know what's going on in her head. Also with me, similar to you, no one would have thought, wow, the excitement is rising. Yeah, nobody knew what was going on inside me. And it also took me a long time before I took the step to publicly explain my departure. That was over a year later on the Heute Journal. For her, of course, it's a completely different story. And I think to some extent it is making it public. That she is in a process that is far from over, one that still requires a lot from her and makes visible what is to be expected. But it's already a step to make it public. I'm in X now. I tried to get into a government exit program as well, but then they said, no, let's wait and see. We don't know what might happen. I would also wish and hope for the bereaved, for society, for everyone. Yes, that she comes clean, that she reveals her insider knowledge, that she takes personal responsibility, that she shares what she knows. That would also help answer all the many, many open questions. There are also wild conspiracy theories circulating in all sorts of directions surrounding the National Socialist Underground story. I can even say that about myself. Some people might have noticed at the time I was accused that I welcomed the trio at an event, personally introduced them. That has been completely and thoroughly cleared up. Because it was complete nonsense, it's now being recycled by some left-wing extremists in the course of Beate Zschäpe's exit and her exit interview. Yes, that claim is also being made. My group back then, the Free Forces Cologne, the Free Network Cologne, that was me. And my people supposedly had close contact with Ralph Wohleben. Where I can say, man, sure, I knew him by sight. I knew he was somewhere in Thuringia, a leading figure. I've spoken to that man for maybe 2 sentences in my life. Just, hi, how are you? Where's the demo route? At most. It never went any further, so there was absolutely no connection. And now things like that are all being fantasized again by some people. And for my own sake, purely out of my own interest, I would wish for Beate Zschäpe to finally come clean, to name names, to say what she knows, and thus put an end to all this speculation.
I wonder, do we have opposing positions, Axel? I thought we do. Yes, there is a petition with over 100,000 signatures.
148,000 people. There is a petition started by the victims' relatives that very strictly demands that Exit should kick Beate Zschäpe out again. That she must first disclose everything she knows before she can join an exit program. It is simply assumed that her desire to leave is tactically motivated to possibly get faster, easier prison relief.
Well, I don't think that will make it happen. I don't think that will lead to it.
She was found to have a severe level of guilt, so she must serve 15 years. But in general, I consider it humane.
Understandable. With the background of the National Socialist Underground, that anyone would say, we'll let her out after 16 or 17 years. I don't think so.
That's exactly what's expected there.
A substitute rejection is nearly always certain in cases of especially severe guilt.
But I insist, I understand it on a human level. I have also met and spoken with National Socialist Underground survivors. I can absolutely understand that on a human level. These are deep wounds. These are the most severe insults and injuries that these people have experienced. And I can understand that, of course. That also makes you a bit afraid. Wow, now Beate Zschäpe is in the exit program. People think that's good. Now this woman might get her red carpet rolled out and less prison time, even though nothing has come from her. What eases our pain, what contributes to clarification, I can understand that. But we, as former extremists, have a different perspective on it. It's a process. Leaving is a marathon, not a sprint, and it's a first step in the right direction. And now we have to watch what else happens, if anything else happens, and then we can form a final judgment. If we're still sitting here in 10 years, and if Beate Zschäpe hadn't moved forward, hadn't taken responsibility, hadn't made a statement, hadn't tried to clarify things, then I would also say that wasn't enough. Criticism is appropriate there. But now, at this first step, being ready to intervene and say, no, that can't be allowed, we have to collect signatures, and we should rather support the relatives now, which is not even a question, but those are two different things. Even a perpetrator, even a right-wing terrorist has, like anyone else, a right to rehabilitation and to help with that. And if she seeks this help on her own in an exit program, that is in itself something that you have to see as a good thing. Otherwise, we let those willing to leave. Something to take with them on their way. First, you have to make a confession of your life. You have to make a 180-degree turn. You have to humble yourself before us now.
Throw yourself down, you.
You have to. We don't want hurdles to become obstacles.
Make them, exactly.
The hurdles have to stay small.
Of course, for me, there's still a difference between someone like Philipp Schläfer, who wants to leave, and someone like Simon from Thuringia or Kevin from Stuttgart, who are entering an exit program. Beate Zschäpe. There's a difference. You really have to say that clearly. And for me personally, without wanting to offend Exi, whoever belonged for me on this journey, at some point it would be necessary to come clean. So simple. Beate Zschäpe, I believe, can only begin anew with a new identity. I think we are aware of that. Well, I think even here a new identity was given to the Gladbeck kidnappers back then. One of them has been released.
You're asking me and I know the answer but can't recall it right now.
She recalls recommending live on camera when a young girl was shot in the car. One of the Gladbeck attackers is now free under a new name. Oh, that's just part of the journey for me. That's simply how I feel about it. Yes, that's right. Who were the support systems? Where were they? That's just how it is for me. That's how I feel about it. For me, the National Socialist Underground is similarly significant in Germany's post-war history as the Red Army faction. The fact that they never clarified who shot Schleyer, I think that's still unresolved to this day.
Support networks were not fully uncovered either. I don't even want to compare them now. Exactly.
For me, that's part of it. So if you say, okay, I'm out of this, I want to leave the ideology behind and end it, should I also clarify this to the victims? What exactly happened here? That's just part of it for me. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. I'd like to know. As you say, does Beate Zschäpe have the right to enter an exit program? I
say yes.
Clearly.
Yes, I say clearly.
Yes, I would like to hear it from the community. Hear what they write in the comments.
I'd also like to add the argument, because I can understand if people say she hasn't changed at all, she hasn't spoken out publicly at all. I can understand that, but I can say from my own perspective, until you take that step into the public, swallowed, it's shotgun utilization. Behind it, the great are the only ones, and just like in with memory, that's a tough one. It's not as easy for many people as you might expect when watching from the sidelines. And here we should simply give Beate Zschäpe time. Here we should see what comes out of this exit process. And I see that as a great opportunity. I see this exit process, which has now begun with the first steps of entering the exit program, as an opportunity to embark on the long road of rehabilitation, which of course must undoubtedly and without question be connected to it. To come clean, to come out with everything, and to help answer these burning questions that weigh on many souls, on many people. Yes, that is actually part of her obligation as I see it, but she has to come to that realization herself. Yes, it can't be that something is demanded of her now for which she is not yet ready herself, something she might not even understand or accept, for which there simply aren't the capacities at the moment either. You should give it time. Yes, I know people quickly say she's the perpetrator, not the victim. Yes, but as a society, we have a different perspective. We aim to both punish and educate, and we want to prevent people from being trapped in crime, terrorism, and extremism forever. And these people also need to be offered a helping hand. And anyone who doesn't want that is sending a fatal signal to those who want to leave extremism. They reply, "These hurdles are too high, I can't and don't want to do it. I'd rather stay where I am, even if it fails."
Let me paint a disastrous picture. Wait, I just want to check something quickly.
Convicted National Socialist underground terrorist Beate Zschäpe reportedly wants to leave the right-wing scene. After multiple rejections, Zschäpe has been accepted into an exit program, her lawyer confirmed. Acceptance into such a program could positively impact the rest of her prison sentence. Zschäpe was actually sentenced to life imprisonment in 2018. Although she never fired a shot, she remains jointly responsible for the 10 murders by the so-called National Socialist Underground. Among them were 5 racially motivated murders in Munich and Nuremberg.
We just saw the camper van where Oberbündet and Obermundlos are said to have taken their own lives. Beate Zschäpe then set the building on fire here. If I remember correctly, it was to destroy evidence, so that already contradicts all of that. I had no idea about this. You don't destroy evidence or set the place on fire even if you get a call. If you're not involved, I wouldn't burn my own place. So maybe Marissa just visited one of our horses. Suppose we get a call and Philip says to set the place on fire. I'd respond, wait, why?
No.
No, I don't want to. Why? Yes.
Yes, also the matter that she had to know, how do they finance themselves, where are they active? That was such a secretive, why?
Should I have an identification card if my name is on it?
Such a secretive community, yes. A community that lived underground for such a long time with a false identity. Yeah, well, I'm sorry, it's just unrealistic to claim, my name is Hayes, I don't know anything. I can also understand the frustration, the anger, and even the justified rage of relatives who feel a bit deceived by this. But even there, you have to say, give her the chance to prove herself. Don't torpedo the steps in the right direction. Because if you take this opportunity away from her, if you really assume now, man, this petition bears fruit, she gets kicked out of exit again and is left to rot. She may take her secret to the grave unless she confesses that she shuts down and there's no longer a need for it.
So the exact goal in the work should be to achieve de-radicalization and to expose the National Socialist underground terrorist crimes. I can understand that a little before we get into our new format here, under 30 minutes. Of course, you can understand that, which we don't always manage. If you imagine, even a Beate Zschäpe might be released after 17, 18, 19, 20 years. I also know a murderer who was released after 17 years, shot someone in a wheelchair, killed one. I understand the fear and concern that this is a maneuver. Many extremists can play the long game, especially in prison if you're aware of it. Purposeful behavior is a big topic for psychologists working in exit programs. I can already see that as a catastrophe. When people like that get out, they move to places like Norway. Canis did something similar by moving to France. Wasn't there someone in Norway who set churches on fire and also killed someone? I don't know, you're probably not really into this black metal stuff, but it was like Canis, so...
National Socialist black metal, he was also one of Hendrik Mobius's buddies.
Yeah, exactly. Absurd? I can already feel it when people say, what if this woman is out again in 10 or 12 years? She'll be, I think, almost 60 then and could really get started again. And then maybe there, she could do really terrible things again. Through social media, through books, maybe invited to certain far-right, right-wing, radical events. I can understand that, right?
Of course, obviously, but ultimately the general question is because
the final break exposes the entire network. That's the ultimate.
Taking responsibility for yourself, coming clean, and also facing critical questions. Yes, especially from the relatives, the survivors of the murder victims. That's part of it. That's part of taking responsibility. Yes, leaving must be allowed, but action is also needed. It's not a gift that you just get handed like, hey, now you're out and everything is fine. You have to do something for it. And especially in a case like this, when you've caused so much damage, so much suffering, Yes, and even now, yes, a state affair throughout Switzerland. Yes, the people feel about the democratic institutions. Yes, then you have the obligation, the damn duty, yes, to come clean. Yes, but I think Exit knows that too. These people didn't just start working yesterday. But exit companions understand this is a marathon, not a sprint, and you can't force people. As I said, people want honesty and authenticity, not just saying anything they believe. And if that ever happens, it will certainly be a long road. We don't need to check the clock each week and think, now Beate has to act, since this will be a long process. But when it happens, it's definitely worth it. Yeah, then it's definitely worth it to support people in coming clean, not just for themselves. Of course, there's always some self-interest involved, yes, but also to be able to truly repent, to sincerely ask for forgiveness, and to honestly strive for clarification. Yes?
Axel, we will stay on this topic and update as soon as we hear anything. It remains exciting there, and I just wish for the relatives that they can find some peace. I don't think you can ever find complete peace there anymore. That's why our thoughts go out to the victims, and we hope that Exit, which is trying to bring this to light, does a good job. We're hoping for under 30 minutes, thumbs up if you like our work, thumbs down if not. If you think we suck, feel free to comment repeatedly or email us at info@extremistlos.de. If we should cover a topic really quickly, that's what we want to do with our new format here. A quick, direct counter speech or clarification really right on the pulse of the times on that very day. Feel free to write what you think about it. Otherwise, check out the book by Axel, I Was the Hitler of Cologne. My book is also available at kingorthekongs.de with a signature or a Merkel must go stamp if you want. I still have it here. It's a funny little thing. Beef, Bandits and More with Philip Zane. Thanks for the 10% discount. Also at Tech Plus, you can comment on anything under the video. Patreon is the best way. There are always data and pictures coming in from the past. Axel, thanks for your time. Remember, it's always significant to address such a hot topic. Guys, it's not always easy for us to talk about this because people tell us we shouldn't, or even say we don't have the right to talk about it. But I think that's exactly what makes it special, that we've already run part of this marathon and can talk about it. Axel, just a couple of closing sentences to the community and we'll finish in under 30 minutes. Please keep it brief.
Yes, thank you very much for your support. I'm also looking forward to the comments and hope that my arguments don't just fade away like Cassandra's words in the desert, but maybe you can learn from it, especially if you have a different perspective from someone who can, to some extent, understand what might be going on with Zschäpe right now. Dear folks, brevity is the soul of wit. Until next time.
And thank you, Axel, for your time. And as always, I remain with an ahoy from the coast with 29 minutes. Thank you, folks.